Hey, what's up, guys? You are listening to What's the Matter with me, Anti, Destined,
Hello.
and Akira.
Hi.
Again, Mintry couldn't join us today, but right now we are in our second part of our show, and we are going to be talking about the arena. What's the Matter is a show where a bunch of friends get together and talk about one of their favorite games, Hearthstone. In this video, we are going to be talking about Hearthstone-related, arena-related things. Anyway, let's just carry on with it. Akira, what are we talking about today?
Today we'll be talking about how do you build your deck in the sense of a mana curve. So basically, we'll be talking about how many of each mana cost cards do you want in your deck, so that you will flow nicely from the early game into the late game, and you'll be able to seize board control throughout the game.
Okay, so included in our show notes will be a couple of links to the guides that we've been following. The first one is Trump's Arena's guide, the neutral comments, which is on liquidhearth.com, and The Beauty of Tempo Decks in Arena by Murano. So again, I think Trump has been doing a list ever since the beta started, ever since he's at Access, so this is the updated one. I think the most updated one.
Yeah,
right?
correct.
Okay.
So how Trump plays his arena is that he makes a list of all the cards he has and ranks them accordingly. So he writes it in an Excel sheet. So when in arena, he comes to a point where he has he has to make a decision of which of the one or three picks to pick, and the choices aren't obvious, as in some are really tight against each other. What he do is he refer back to his Excel sheet and choose the one which is ranked higher.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so why don't we start off with what the ideal curve is like?
Okay, so in the game of Hearthstone, so you have the choices of playing cards are written. So what you want to do is you want to maximize your cards efficiency every turn. Like on turn 1 you only have 1 mana.
Okay.
So on turn 2 you have 2 mana. You want to play a 2 mana card. On turn 3 you have 3 mana. You want to play a 3 mana card. And on turn 4 you want to play a 4 mana card, and so on and so forth. Why this is so? Simply because as the mana cost go up, your minions get stronger and stronger. For example, let's have a look at turn 4. Turn 4 you have the option of dropping a 4 cost. 4 cost minion. So for example, we are dropping a Senjin Shieldmaster, a 4 cost for a 3/5 taunt.
Yep.
On the other hand, you can always drop 2 drops instead. So that's a 3/2 and a 3/2. So we have these two players. Player A is going to drop the Senjin Shieldmaster, and player B is going to drop two drops, which is a 3/2 and 3/2.
Okay.
What happens is that the Senjin Shieldmaster will be able to trade for both of the 3/2s.
Right.
So in this sense, player A has a card advantage because he's using only 1 card to trade for opponent's 2 cards.
Right.
So in the longer run, he has more value, and player B will slowly realize that he's running out of cards because each player only draw a card every turn, and if you are doing so much unfavorable trade throughout the game, you will eventually run out of cards to play, and then you realize that there's nothing you can do without any cards.
Right.
So this is what we call card advantage. So in a game of Hearthstone, you always want to get card advantage, in the sense that you want to use 1 card to trade for opponent's 2 card. You get value over the long run. So in order to achieve this, you have to play the best card every turn, and that's why there's this mana curve. So what I have is the ideal mana curve for a standard deck in arena that gives you the most consistent win. This is what Trumps likes to play as well. It's a deck that bell curves at 4 mana.
Okay.
So what we have is we have 4 2-cost minions, 5 3-drop minions, 7 4-cost minions, 5 5-cost minions, 4 6-cost and higher minions, and 5 removal spells.
Okay.
Yeah. So as you can see, we have our number of minions picked at 4 cost. What this does is that the thing is, because 4-cost minions are the most efficient in this game. That's why you want the most of them.
Okay.
Yeah, that's why we pick up at 4 cost. But No, actually, the higher cost your minion go, the more efficient they are. But the thing is, if you have too many high cost minions, they will get stuck in your hand early game, and there's nothing much you could do with them.
Right.
So 4 cost is like the ideal mana to get to max out, because
it's easier. It's a balance between having something to play and having options.
Right? Yes. Yeah. There's it's very rare that you will die on turn 4, so you will always be able to play your 4 cost minions. So following next, we will go in depth and talk about the cost of every the minions according to their cost, and why do we come up with such a number.
Okay.
So firstly, we'll talk about 1 cost minions. The average size of a 1 cost minion is either a 1/2 or a 2/1. So in Arena, we tend to avoid picking 1 cost minion simply because they do not give you any value. They are, for the 1/2, they are too weak to take up anything from 2 cost and above. So the best you could do is trade for a 1 drop. But then 1 drop doesn't affect the game so much, because you need 30 turns to kill your opponent with 1 attack. And that's not gonna happen.
Yeah, true.
So on the other hand, a 2/1 is quite good because it allows you to trade for a 3/2, which is a 2 drop. However, because being at 1 health is very weak against hero power such as the mage, the rogue, or the druid, and to a certain extent the paladin as well. So because of all this, because of hero powers directly, we tend to avoid picking 1 cost minion. However, there's a small exception to this case, in the form of Argon Squire and Worgen Infiltrator, simply because these 2 cards are able to survive through or avoid hero powers, and then be able to do some trading on the following turn. So as much as possible, avoid picking 1 cost minions in Arena unless you are forced to. And when you are forced to, try to pick a Worgen Infiltrator.
Right.
Moving on, we have the 2 cost minions. On average, they are of sizes 2/3 or 3/2. So what this means is that for 2/3, they are much stronger against 1 cost minion. And because of this reason, this is yet another reason for you to not play any 1 cost minion, because the moment you play, it's going to get wiped out by a 2 cost minion after next turn.
Right.
So picking a 2/3 or 3/2 is actually debatable, because there's a few card interactions that make one favorable over the other, but they are still kind of even.
Right.
But I think a 3/2 has a slight edge, in a sense that 3/2 is able to trade with a 3 cost minion.
Right, so it'll trade up most
correct.
of the time.
Yeah, most of the time you want to trade up, because when you trade up, you have more tempo. Tempo in a sense that you're using less mana to trade more mana from an opponent.
Right.
So in the long run, you will be able to put more cards on the field than your opponent. 3/2 can trade out with a 3 cost, which 2/3 is unable to. But 2/3 has a very special interaction with the Sun Cleric. Together with Sun Cleric, it will becomes a 3/4, which makes it better than a 3/2, because a 3/2 with a Sun Cleric is only a 4/3. You will still trade with another 3/2, and you will still trade with a 3/3, which is a 3 cost. So it's actually some favors a 2/3 and some favors a 3/2. What I would say is, given a choice, pick as much 3/2 as possible. You will still, because in the end, the worst outcome is still a 1-for-1 trade. It's still an even trade. A 2/3 on the other hand, the worst outcome is you just lose it for nothing.
So if you are unable to buff it, you're not
correct.
Going
so
to do
it's too much of a risk to pick a 2/3.
Right.
So yes, pick a 3/2 as much as possible. And for our 2 cost 3/2 minions, some of our top picks are Knife Juggler. It's just one of the best picks actually. The 1 mana ping, the 1 damage ping is just too good. And in fact, it has like taunt returns all over it. Your opponent is forced to kill it.
It's like, please kill me.
Or he will simply go out of control. Then next we have an Acidic Swarm Ooze. That is just for what do you call that? Yes, it's just a deck card against all the weapon classes. The next Fairy Dragon is quite a good pick as well, simply because all your spellcasters will be having a hard time taking him off the field. So this allows you to survive longer on the field, and and it has special interactions against cards like Cone of Cold, which prevent it from being targeted. So if you put a Fairy Dragon right in the middle, you are basically preventing all 3 of your minions being hit by Cone of Cold at the same time.
Yep.
And last one is a Mad Bomber. This is a very
Tricky
card. It's a very luck-based card because it's.
I love it.
Yeah, my personal. It's been good at times and bad at times, but I think overall in the long run it's still good because in a sense it's a knife juggler because you have a chance to ping 1 damage at the target you want.
True.
But of course it's all luck, so there's a chance that you will never hit the target you want. But on the chances that hit, you'll be leading by quite a long margin.
You generally want to play it when your board is empty and the opponent has maybe 1 or 2 minions that are 2 health, 1 health.
Correct.
On the other side.
Like I mentioned earlier, one of the popular 1-cost minion to pick is the Worgen Infiltrator, and there's no way to hit it by any other form. So on turn 2, your only answer to it is a Mad Bomber. Moving on, we have a 3-cost minion. The average stats of a 3-cost minion is a 3/3. As you can see, a 3-cost minion doesn't have much improvement from 2-cost minion, which is why some players tend to draft more 2-cost minions over 3-cost, simply because you really want to hit your 2-cost minions. Previously, as stated, we have about 4 to 5 2-cost minions in our mana curve, simply because it is very, very important to hit your 2-drop in the early game. Because the moment you miss your 2-drop, you'll notice that the game will slowly spin out of control, as your opponent 2-drop will trade out with your 3-drop, and your opponent 3-drop will trade out with 4-drop, so on and so forth. And you realize that no matter what you do, you feel like you're always 1 step behind. So for 3-cost minion, what you want in is ideally a Shattered Sun Cleric or a Harvest Golem. Arguably, they do not have the ideal size of a 3/3. However, what the Shattered Sun Cleric does is that it gives a +1/+1 to your 2-drop. So basically, it makes your 2-drop a 4/3. And basically, in a sense, your 2-drop has become your 3-drop, and your Shattered Sun Cleric is now your 2-drop. So in the end, you still have both. Your ideal condition of 3-drop and 4-drop on the field. Sorry, a 2-drop and 3-drop on the field. Harvest Golem, on the hand, has a second life. When it dies, it creates a smaller copy of itself, and that allows you to trade up as well. So it's 4 damage from the Harvest Golem, which is really good. The other 2 are Scarlet Crusader. Scarlet Crusader has a Divine Shield. So it's a 6 damage unless your opponent has a way to get rid of the Divine Shield. And Earthen Ring Farseer Earthen Ring Farseer is our ideal 3-cost. It's a 3 mana 3/3. So
with an added effect.
Correct. The effect is very, very useful at times, considering that sometimes you are like for example your 3/2, you trade with a Paladin token, and next turn he's going to use a token and trade with you. So in the sense, you're losing a 3/2 to a token, so it's not really worthwhile. So the Earthen Farseer can actually
prolong the longevity of
your minion. So and this is especially useful in classes that does not have a heal with the heal in their classes by default. Okay. Moving on, we have 4-cost minions. So average stats of 4-cost minion are 4/4, and this is the bulk of what your deck wants to have. You want to have as many 4-cost minions as possible, simply because a 4-cost minion is just too versatile in arena. Like they have the most medium size in a sense that you can take out 3 drops and below without it dying itself, and you only need a minor buff for it to trade out. So a 4-cost minion is the best. In our case, our favorite 4-cost would be Chillwind Yeti. In my personal opinion, Chillwind Yeti is the best card in the whole game for arena. It just has the best stats: 4 mana, 4/5. There's nothing better you can ask for. And following, we have our Dark Iron Dwarf as well. Just because it allows you to trade up as well. Next are Senjin Shield Master. Senjin is a very interesting choice in the sense that instead of having more attack, it has a bit more health. So in a sense that it can still trade with a lot of your 3 drops and 2 drops. So it's still a good pick. And the taunt is especially useful in this case, since that it forces your opponent to restricted choices. So it puts the battle more in your favor. And the last one is Defender of Argus. It works like a Shattered Sun Cleric, so it's really good on its own, despite the recent nerf. It's still good.
Yep.
Next, for 5-cost minions, average stats for 5-cost minion is 5/5. As usual, even though you expect even though average cost, the average size is a 5/5, but that's very, very rare that you get a 5/5 from.
I don't think. Well, the only one that's 5/5 is the Tiger.
Correct, that's the only one,
Tiger,
which is why, the Strangleton Tiger, which is why it's one of our top picks as well.
Yeah,
it's just because of his size. His stealth is just a extra bonus.
Yeah.
So, but other than that, what the other guy that we really like is the Silver Hand Knight. Simply because it spawns a smaller version of himself. So, if you add it together, you're actually getting a 6/6 from him, which is the most value you can get from it. Yeah. But you have to be careful when playing him because he dies to a Flame Strike, which is very unfortunate. Yeah. And finally, we have a Vengeful Cold Mercenary. It's a very big drawback of increasing 3 cost to all your minions.
Yeah.
But then, because of his 7/6 size, he's so good that most of the time you can do almost advantageous trade of 2 to 3 cards from your opponent.
The opponent will also be quite incentivized to get rid of it because
Correct.
of the amount of.
So your opponent will most likely get rid of it within the next 1 or 2 turns, which means that you're actually
not really suffering from the drawback.
Correct.
Yeah.
So finally, we have our 6 cost and higher minions. Basically, these are your minions that helps you to stabilize the game at the end. So basically, for 6 cost minions, the only worthwhile one picking is probably the Boulder Fist Ogre. It's a bigger version of the Chewing Yeti. A 6 mana for 6/7.
Yeah.
And then other than that, most of the time you are picking things for utility like the Stormwind Champion.
7 cost.
It's a bit higher, but it has a very, very strong ability in a sense it's
+1 to everything.
Correct.
+1 to everything.
Yeah. And then you have the Argon Commander that allows you to trade with to do a 2-for-1 trade simply because of Divine Shield.
Yeah.
And any other things, most of the time you will want to pick a legendary if the choice is there for you. Simply because legendaries are so strong in the game that most of the time when you play and the opponent has no answer to it, you simply win from the advantage from it. Cards like Ragnaros, Ysera, they all just give you so much advantage.
Yeah, that's true.
And after you finish building a curve of such a deck, you realize that you have about 5 cards left. 5 cards or so. So in these 5 cards, what we do is we will try to throw in direct removal. So for the case of the majors, we have the Polymorph, the Fireball, and the Flame Strike. What this does is that in the case that you happen to be a bit behind from the opponent, in the sense that he's putting one creature out every turn ahead of you, so he's in a sense one step faster than you. So what this direct removal does is that it helps you control the board in that you'll be able to regain the tempo and take the lead from there. So yes, removal costs are very important as well, but be careful not to pick too much of them because in the end you will be still depending on minions to win the game.
Right. For the stability to have the board control.
Yeah.
I think I have a lot of issues with that because I tend to draft a lot of spells, especially for the mage, but in Arena it doesn't seem to work very well.
Yeah. You need to find a good balance, and this is overall this mana curve is just a rough guide because it's almost impossible to hit such a nice number.
Right.
And sometimes it's not even worthwhile to hit such a nice number, such a nice curve if you are picking a
Aggro class.
No, if you are picking if you end up having to pick a minion that is weaker than what you are getting at that curve.
Yeah. Okay.
So what you want is if your curve looks a bit
off.
out of shape or off, it doesn't matter so much as long as you're picking the best optimal card that each curve, and
for each choice.
Correct. But in the end, your curve still has to look around there. It's like you can't cut down on too much to cost, and then you realize you have nothing to play in the first few turns.
Exactly.
So
I think I have been weighting my curve towards the left because I tend to prefer a slightly more aggressive play.
Okay.
But then it's very difficult to regain momentum towards the end when all the big creatures come down and I keep having to trade 2 for 1. Yeah.
I think a lower curve is playable in Arena as well, but I feel that it's only restricted to certain classes such as the Warlock and the Rogue. Simply because the Warlock has his hero ability to regain the resources that he lost. So in the long run, even though you're losing card advantage, but then you are able to regain it through other means.
Right.
So and you're putting a lot of pressure on the field. Rogue on the other hand has your 7-cost Spring. It does almost the same thing.
Indeed.
And to a certain extent, Paladin can do it as well. But it's a bit risky considering your Divine Intervention is a rare.
Yeah.
So you cannot gamble on the fact that you will always draft it. So a Rogue or a Warlock is a much safer choice if you want to build an aggro curve, which means you concentrate more on the 2 cost and the 3 cost.
Okay, wow, that's pretty cool. Well, thank you so much for the insights, Akira. Destin, anything to add?
I want to talk about some specific 2-drop minions.
Okay.
What do you think about Mana Wraith? Mana Wraith. Earlier on, when NTC was doing a arena run, he seems to have problem with Mana Wraith.
Yes, and it completely messed up what I was going to play for the 2nd and 3rd turn, and I had to deal with it like quite painfully. Yeah. I don't know.
What do you think of it, Mana Wraith?
Mana Wave only works if you are basically the player that's going first. So in a sense, you put out a 2-drop before him, forcing him to skip miss his curse for first few turn. So most of the time I'll avoid picking him because he's too risky. Basically, he's only good when you got it on your 2nd turn, and you drop it on your 2nd turn. Other than that, he's not that good.
Yeah, later game it doesn't really affect it much, and it also does mess up your own tempo if you don't have the right cards to play.
So on the other hand, to play against a Mana Wraith, that's why we have all these
removals.
Correct, removal spells that we pick. So in this removal spells, you want a good mix of them. You want some that you can play in the early game and some you can play in the late game. So in the form of mages, you want to pick some Frostbolt. Like for example, say you have already picked a Fireball and a Flame Strike. So when the next choice comes out, you might want to pick a Frostbolt over either of them. So simply because it gives you some answers in the early game rather than focusing all on Flame Strike, which is sometimes a bit too late for you to regain the tempo. So actually almost every class has such things. Like Shaman, you have the Fog Lightning. Your Priest, you have Smite. Your Hunter, you have the
Arcane Shot.
Yeah. So all these picks are actually really good because it helps you regain tempo in the early game, and I feel that they are sometimes undervalued.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, I guess that brings us to the end of this segment. This week we won't be having any constructed deck because from experience of last week, it didn't matter after the last patch. So we might be rethinking that format. But thank you guys so much for listening. Why don't we go around and share where they can find us on Twitter?
Okay, you can Destin? Find me on Twitter at twitters.com/Destin. The first E is actually a 3.
Why did you spell it out?
Okay, at D3STINED.
Okay, Akira?
Yes, and I'm Akira. My Twitter name will be Typus Luna, TYPUSLUNA.
And you can find me on Twitter as well at ANTTYC. Thank you guys so much for listening. We will be back again next week.